I'd like to call to order the Wyoming Valley West work session for Wednesday, February 1st at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pazinski,
Here.
Mr. Damascus, Mr. Hardwick,
Here.
Mr. Keating,
Here.
Mr. Usavage,
Here.
Mr. Perfetto,
Here.
Mr. Majer, Mrs. Cassatt, here, Mr. Camus.
Present. Stand for a moment of silence, followed by the salute to our flag, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a reminder this evening, if you would like to address the board, please sign in. I'm sorry, there was an executive session held prior to this meeting to discuss contracts and personnel items. Mr. Tosh.
Thank you, Mr. Camus. Just a couple announcements tonight. The middle school is honoring Black History Month, which begins today. All social study classrooms doors have been decorated to honor various genres of Black history, including but not limited to historical male, female figures, arts, music, sports, and the like. Also, as I mentioned at the school board or at the robocall on Sunday night, looking at the calendar for February, Friday, February 17th is now a half day because of the December 23rd closing that we did have. It is listed on the calendar as our fifth backup date. So again, February 17th will be used, and it's a half day, just as December 23rd would have been. And then schools are closed on February 20th, Monday. We did have some conversation at our last board meeting. One of our speakers had come up and voiced some concerns and interest in the CAPA program over in the Wilkes-Barre School District, the Creative and Performing Arts Academy. We continue to look into that request and research it, and we should have some more information coming next week. I also did want to inform the board that you may have seen in the paper over the weekend, Senator Marty Flynn is introducing some legislation called DeMar's Law because of the situation for the Buffalo Bills football player, DeMar Hamlin, who has made a miraculous recovery, but had to be revived on the field. His legislation would mandate AEDs or automated external defibrillators. And I want to inform the board that we do have them in all our buildings. We do have them down at the stadium. Our coaches are trained. The one or two that haven't been trained in the spring sports will be trained. But we had a conversation with our athletic director, Nick Gill. We want to get out ahead of that. And we've always had the defibrillators at our field. So I do think that that's something that's a very positive step if that legislation does go through. I also did want to throw out to the board tonight just a thought, something that the board might want to consider with the ESSER's money that the district does have. We'll be going under some extensive renovations, some extensive construction in a number of our buildings coming this summer, especially the high school. So our timelines are going to be very tight for them to get in and start the work to get it done in the summer. So one of the areas I would like the board maybe to consider, the last week of school, Friday is a half day for our students. The Wednesday before is graduation. And I think to get ahead of our timelines and to ensure that the workers have enough time to get in there and to meet some of these timelines and deadlines, we should probably consider having that last week of school half days for our high school population, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so that we would pick up anywhere from 16 to possibly 20 hours additional, so that we could get in there and again, get these extensive renovations started. Just something for the board's consideration. Thank you, Mr. Camus.
Thank you, Mr. Tosh. Statements from interested citizens. We have signed in, Mr. Robert Dick.
All right, thanks for hearing me out. Thank you, the man behind the camera, for putting all this on YouTube and everything like that. I want to start off with some thank yous, a little bit of a concern of mine, and then something that's not even directed toward the board or anybody. For the thank yous, I want to thank the board, the administration for finding it in the budget, to hire other resource officers for making the plans to update security and all those type of measures within the district. I think that's great. I know there's been, some confrontations between the students last week. And I appreciate the note zero tolerance and the pursuing the individuals to the fullest extent of the law. My only concern is, I know there's some judgment calls in with, finding, I assume finding the parties that are guilty of this. And I hope there is, because if my child was getting beat down, sorry for the jargon here, I think the best defense is a good offense. I'm gonna tell them to swing back. If one of my kids' friends is getting, double, triple teamed by some folks, I'm gonna say jump in there and help them. So I hope there's a level of discretion that can be done on a case-by-case basis to pursue individuals to the fullest extent of what the education system and the law system can do. That's my only concern. I'm sure that's going on. And my last and final comment isn't to anyone up on the stage. It's not to really anybody here, because there's hardly any parents here, and hopefully some of the folks there in Zoom, YouTube land listen to this. There's a lot of talk on Facebook about the happenings and the fighting on last week, and there was a lot of people riled up and saying they're coming to the school board meeting. Well, hopefully all you that are listening, maybe from your couch or maybe at a day other than February 1st, will decide to actually do that. Come out to the school board meeting. You have elected officials that represent you, that you can voice your concerns to, and to help come to solutions. But there's no one there's limited people here. I mean, for you guys in Zoom, YouTube land, I don't know. 1, 2, 3. I don't know who all is in the administration, but there's probably like 5 parents here, if that. So yeah, if you have a voice and you want to be heard, do it other than on Facebook. Come to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dick, very much. Mr. Keating, under Finance Committee.
Just 2 things, Mr. Camus. When we do eventually at some point sell the Schuyler Avenue School, we just like to make a recommendation that whatever proceeds come from that be placed into our capital account, along with all of the insurance proceeds, whatever, I know we received some money, but whatever continues to come in for Third Avenue as well, so that during our budgeting process, we as a board can collectively look at our capital needs for the district and invest that money wisely back into the school system. And just to address the gentleman's comments that just spoke, I know we're here a short period of time, some of us, but we take security and safety of this school, pinnacle, very, very serious. And this board as a whole, since the start of this school year, has added 2 additional resource officers to this school, 2 additional resource officers to the high school. And I can assure you that, the main topic of our interaction with admin is making sure that anyone that's violating school policy And the SROs are instructed to enforce the laws to the fullest extent. I mean, that is something that means a ton to all of us, is to make these schools as safe as possible. So at this point, other than to let the legal system run its course, I think our administration is doing all that they can do with the rules that they have to play by. And this board has invested as much resources as we possibly can up to this point, and will continue to do so in making these schools safe.
Thank you, Mr. Keating. Mr. Savage, under the Education Committee, do you have anything this evening?
Yes, Mr. Camus, I'd like to thank, before I go any further, I'd like to thank Mr. Navraki for the information he provided. Wilson Foundations will be used in kindergarten through third grade as an intervention to assist with reading. That's the upcoming school year. An initial training was held on an Act 80 day last Friday. Full implementation will be for the 23-24 school year. And finally, the district is working on updating the guidance plan required by PDE. Plan's focus is on careers under PDE 339. The plan will be updated by the end of March. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Mr. Hardwick, ESSERS or Special Education Committee, do you have anything this evening?
A comment on special education. We didn't meet since our last monthly meeting, but I'll inform my fellow committee members as well as the board. In speaking with Maria, we are going to consider doing a static monthly committee meeting toward the end of each month. And if there shouldn't be anything to be covered, we can easily cancel the meetings, but that way we'll have our meeting set each month. So our committee gets together. And as I'm learning, I'm pretty sure we're going to have topics to discuss almost every month in that means, which is why I asked her if she felt there would be a benefit. Or as far as ESSERS, I'd like to defer to next week. Kim Walk is helping us put together a monthly report that we can share with the board and the public. So I'm hoping to have that available next month, or I'm sorry, next meeting, next week, to share again, as well as with the board. And I'll close with, through this board, I have the privilege of sitting on the Hoyt Library Board. I was assigned to that board position. And they are celebrating this year the 95th anniversary. So there's some fundraising events and stuff. There's some teachers, the receptionist in the office asked if there's ways to help. So it sounds like the school is going to help in doing and participate in celebrating the 95th anniversary, as well as a little bit of fundraising. So we're appreciative for that through the library board. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hardwick. Mr. Dickon, anything with the Safety Committee this evening? Anthony, where are we at with the cameras with AMP, that grant that we received? If you don't mind.
So as we said a couple of meetings ago, we applied for a $200,000 grant through AMP for a communication system for all faculty and staff, and for a gun detection sensors outside of a few of our buildings. That grant's been approved, and now we have to wait for the company's going to come in and start doing like training with the software. But they're now waiting, but it's been all approved. Now we just get the invoice, and then I don't know, Tom, if we received any funds for that yet, but we had to fill out a form with our routing information so they can send the funds directly to us. So that's all good. And now we're just waiting on the next PCCD grant, which was for our mental health and security. We're still working through fixing some errors within the grant. They kicked it back for a couple of corrections. So that system was offline today, but we're still moving forward with that one.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Dickon, very much. I have nothing this evening under buildings and grounds. Mr. Rivera, I'll wait until we get down to item number 6. If you'd help me out, please. Under general recommended action items, 1 through 6. Does anybody have any questions on the first 5? Mr. Rivera, if you could help the board with number 6 on the change order for the high school, please. For the 40,000 and that 3,000, I think it was.
Yeah, the change order on item 6 is for the high school. There's a pump and a motor for the heating system that probably was overlooked when we were looking at doing the ESSERs. We do have money within contingency of the fund to be able to cover that. And what it does is it covers the pump and the motor of the secondary heating pump that we have. Right now, we're running on a new pump and motor that's probably 2 years old, but we have no redundancy. So this will give us redundancy if we ever have an issue.
Okay. So you, at this point, you absolutely recommend this item.
Yes,
Okay,
and it will be covered underneath contingency.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Guerra, very much. Mr. Whittiak, you have a question on, if you would discuss that for us. on
Do you
number
want to, yeah, the copier lease? So the copier lease window did close and we did receive 4 proposals. Our current provider is Golden Business, correct? That's our current one? Yeah, okay. They were actually came in at the highest. The lowest was a company called, was it Marco? They were the lowest, however, they had a variable pricing component to their proposal. Top was close to Marco, but was a little less variable in terms of their monthly fees. I think that the best option right now would be Top, who was our previous provider. But ultimately, that was you guys.
So they're the parent low bidder.
Marco was the low bidder, but they had a variable pricing component, so I mean. It could get well up in your face at times, some of that. So we talked about it and we thought Top was just a little safer in terms of their cost structure.
So if, Tom or, Anthony, if you could both help me at least, I don't know, maybe the rest of the board, what is our variable? 'Cause I'm not quite certain what that is.
Copies per month. That we have with Marco, we would have an allowance, and then if we went over, then you get charged. So we do have, no copies in the summertime, but then during the school year, months like September would be extremely high volume because all the packets getting ready. So you're gonna go over and you're gonna be charged an additional per copy fee.
Yeah, like the 3 vendors besides Marco all did basically a pay for what you use. Marco gave us a monthly allowance where no matter what we use, we always pay at least a minimum charge. They did say they would kind of credit that back, but we don't know what our volume would look like. So like I said, we've been in that kind of contract before where it blew up in our face. And we've actually overpaid more than what we were kind of using for, because we never really actually received the credits back.
So with our current usage, I mean, we should have that readily available to us. I mean, we should be good, or like we looked at our variable there, how much we actually, how many.
It is, we have that information. It was included as part of the bid.
Okay, okay. So your gentlemen's both recommendation will be for us, the board, to vote on Top.
That was my recommendation based on, which RFP met the technical specifications that I put out, as well as looking at the lowest cost. I didn't look at the sales agreements or any of the other kind of agreements to see if there's any kind of gotchas in there. I think they were provided to one of our solicitors to review just to make sure everything was good with that.
Yep.
So my recommendation is based purely on technical and meeting the RFP.
Okay,
So,
okay, good.
yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I was gonna ask, Meyer, there was a cursory review of the contracts?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're okay with everything, Myra? or-
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Nothing else on those items then? Stack recommended action items, 1 through 16. Is there any questions on any of those? All right, Mr. Whittiak, do you have anything else this evening?
Just to discuss what Mr. Keating mentioned about the insurance proceeds and the capital reserve fund. I just want to say that the payments to these contractors are coming out of the general fund right now for the repairs. And if you do put the money in the capital projects fund, you can't transfer it back to the general fund at a later time. But if you put it in the general fund now, you can transfer it to the capital projects fund at a later time. So I mean, it's ultimately your decision. I just wanted to make you aware of those details as well.
So to recoup the general fund, you're suggesting we put the money there?
No, I just asked, where you'd want it, because I know you mentioned that at a previous meeting, that would be a good way to replenish the capital projects account. But I just wanted to make you aware that so far that the bills that we've received as part of the cleanup and part of the damage, they were paid from the general fund. And then, so just so you're aware, I mean,
And then I would
I'm not
recommend,
opposed to it.
right, whatever was paid from the general fund be reimbursed. But as this claim settles, because there's money that's being invested into that building already through the ESSERS program,
Mhm.
that all of those excess funds, what does not need to be, reimbursed to the general fund, be placed in capital.
Okay, so reimburse and then anything excess goes to the capital projects. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Anything else? Tom, could you give us an update on the audit? I mean, how we doing with that?
They sent more requests this week. I think they've sent 3 in the last 2 weeks. So they're actively working and hopefully it's winding down. I've said that 2 months ago. But this last request was for a lot of for our finances in the last year, our current year, our most recent year AFR, our most recent year audit from BBD. So hopefully they're coming to an end, but I'm surprised on how in-depth they've gotten and how much information they've requested.
But we're able to keep up with their demands and their requests, no problem.
Yeah, we're giving them what they ask for and it's ongoing.
Okay. Okay, good.
Rick,
Yes, sir.
Tom, did BBD, obviously they finished their audit. Did they present their closing documents?
No, as far as I know, it is finished, but the final report has not been presented.
Did they give you any timeline or timeframe for that?
No, but from what I understand, it's usually done by now or close to now. So their boss's name is, I never met him, but Stuart's boss. So he usually comes on site and presents it to the finance committee. So hopefully it's soon. I could follow up with Stuart and ask him when he expects that to happen.
Okay,
But
be good to have an idea and it sounds like it's relevant in several ways.
yeah.
Good, Bill.
Thank you.
I'll go around the table. Do you have anything for board members' comments?
The only thing I'd add is say thank you, Mr. Dick, and a couple of times I've sat up here and said, boy, I would really hope people would catch wind that the work session is really a lot of the discussion points. And as you can see, I think the board's trying to make an effort to talk about topics, be a little bit more open with these discussions, so people know what's going on, because this is the session that's going to determine what we vote on next week. And if you're going to have say in it, this is really the session to bring it forward. So thank you for your comments tonight, and that's all I have.
Mrs. Cassatt, do you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Keating?
I'm good, Mr. Camus. Thank you.
Mr. Savage?
I'm good, thank you.
Jack? Mr.
I'm good.
You good? Tom?
I'm good.
You good? Mr. You good?
Just one quick item. I want to make sure I don't omit it in case I miss it for some reason next week. On 2 of our staff recommended action, Chris Scavone will be retiring April 6th. Chris Scavone has been an integral part of this middle school for over 25 years as a guidance secretary. Very professional, very loyal, and we wish her health and happiness in her retirement. And one other retirement on there, number 10, Mike Barna has been a science teacher here at the middle school also for over 25 years. Again, a very loyal, professional employee who's done a great job as a teacher. And again, we wish Mr. Barna health and happiness in a well-deserved retirement also. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have one comment. I received an email from a person that asking about buying the month or potentially buying the Munson property off of us. I don't, is anybody even interested at this time of
I didn't hear what you said.
Buying what?
the Munson property that we own
Up by the west side.
up by the West Side Drive-In? Does anybody want that to go forward? I mean, I personally feel as though we should hold on to it.
I would think until we let the whole site logic, IQ run its course and we
Right.
have
Mhm.
we've discussed a full assessment of all of our property,
Properties.
plant, equipment. We hold on.
I
Okay,
agree.
very good. And that's all I have this evening. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Our next regular meeting will be Wednesday, February eighth.